And I want to pick out two things from the text that we can take with us. Two things that I think stand out. Among so many, you could do a lot with this. But there's a call in here to obedience and to go forward and do. I'll assume the love part. Joshua loves God. But once that happens, we're called to obedience, to obey what God calls us to do. And we should live in obedience, not in safety. And that's really what Joshua is contending with here. Jesus tells us in the New Testament, if you love me, you'll obey what I command. You're going to do this if you love me. And sometimes obedience is going to bring us in direct conflict with the world we live in. That will happen. Jesus tells us that. He says sometimes people are going to hate you because of me. They hate me is what they really hate. Sometimes people are going to mistreat you. We learn that from Jesus, but if you love me, you're going to obey what I command. And if we love God and if we obey, then it asks a lot of us, that obedience. It asks that sometimes we may have to jeopardize our comfort, safety, and security in order to heed the call of God. Now, I like safety, so let's just point that out right away. I like my passwords to be protected, my online identity to be taken care of. So I have passwords. I have the two-step, verification on certain things, and we have to keep increasing our security because we get hacked so often everywhere. When I ride in the car or drive in the car, I'm wearing my seatbelt at all times. My kids are wearing their seatbelts. They ride in car seats. We wear bike helmets. I like safety. It's a good thing, but it's become a cardinal virtue over against so many other things. Safety and comfort together. And safety is good. Let's hear that this morning. But obedience is commanded. There's a difference there. And sometimes they're going to be in direct conflict with one another. Joshua sends 2 spies. Why does he do this? What in the world could they learn as they go in? Of course, we could say there could be some reconnaissance they could gather in the 3 days that they're there. But let's face it, it's kind of a safety check on Joshua's part. He's doing a little trust exercise. God, you've given me the command, but let's just make double sure that this is okay. So he sends them in. And as you look at what they do, they kind of bungle the whole operation. My understanding is that as you read this in Hebrew, it kind of plays out a little bit like a comedy of errors. There's a lot of overtone to the language and these guys go to spy out the land, and where do they end up? Hiding under flax on a roof. They're found out within the first moments that they're there. And then when they're in, they're with Rahab. She sent those soldiers. She says, they came and did their business, and they went that way. And now she holds all the cards. Now she's got the leverage in the situation, and she says, okay, now you guys need to take care of my family. And they say yes. And even their words are a little tempered when they talk. They're trying to put in some sort of clause that they can get out just in case. It's kind of an odd operation, but this is a moment where Joshua, again, is stuttering. He's not quite there. He's supposed to rise up to the occasion. He's not quite there, but we can face this. His predecessor, Moses, did it. Moses was standing in front of the burning bush, and he has all kinds of excuses. God, you can send somebody else. I don't speak too good. Send somebody else instead of me. I won't do it well. Who else can you send? Later, Gideon will do it. We can pick that out. Okay, God, I'm going to put this fleece on the ground, and when the morning dew comes, put it everywhere but the fleece. And then the next day, well, God, I wasn't quite sure. I'll put the fleece on the ground again, and this time you put the dew on the fleece and not on the ground. And this is what Joshua's really at that point of. He's at the point of just saying, okay, God, can we just make really, really sure that this is what you asked me to do? And we can do this ourselves in our own lives. I do this. Sometimes I ignore the call of the Holy Spirit. I'll be in conversations, whether it's in my office or out and about in the world, and I sense a prompt to take a conversation further, even to have a conversation that would otherwise be uncomfortable. And you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, I have something at 3 o'clock. I can't do it right now because then, or that would put me really far out on a limb. And what if it fails, God? What if it doesn't work? It's the same moment Joshua's having right now, and we have those in our everyday lives as we try and respond to God's call on us. And we end up second-guessing God, and what does it result in? It results in missed opportunities and regret. That's the result. So we are called to obedience, not to safety. And we've got to recognize that obedience requires something out of us. Obedience requires courage. Be strong and courageous. It requires courage. And you look at the story, and it's so remarkable that Rahab has it. Joshua doesn't quite have it yet. Rahab has it. She's willing to ask for things. She's willing to take the initiative. We may not agree with the way she did it, but she's willing to take what she needs and has the courage to do it. Courage requires something out of us as well. Obedience requires courage. Courage requires commitment. We're dedicated to what we're called to do or what we're doing. It requires commitment. I'm going to see this thing through because it's more important than anything else that's asking of my time right now. Courage, in that sense, trumps comfort and safety. And the simple example that we can use that often gets used for courage is if one of my kids is out in the middle of the street and they're in grave danger, I will forego safety and comfort and security to run out and save them at the sake of my own life. That's courage in action right there. I utilized it a little bit the other day because our 3-year-old ran out of the house and I said, stop, and he didn't. And I was in bare feet and I ran across mulch. That was courage. That was courage right there. It requires commitment. I will forego safety and comfort in that sense to stop him. Courage also requires virtue, though. Philosopher and Professor Carl Clifton Soderstrom points this out well in a book he's written on virtues and vices. He asked the question, would we say that a thief breaking into my home has courage for doing so in the middle of the night? No, we wouldn't really say that. Of course, there's a sense in which there's courage there, but he points out that courage has become such a universal value within cultures around the world by this point that sometimes it can almost be neutral. You can be courageous in things that aren't really courageous. Rahab can be courageous in lying. She really puts herself out there. But is that actually what we mean by courage? Is that actually courage that we want? There's a moral or ethical element then to courage that's important. It's something worthy of our commitment. We need that. Obedience requires courage. Courage requires commitment. And courage requires virtue. It has to be filled with the right thing.